Hello and welcome to Modinomics 3.0, our special series ahead of Budget 24-25. Today we discuss infrastructure, one of the key pillars of the Viksit Bharat by 2047 vision of Prime Minister Modi's government. Let's first take a look at why hundreds and thousands of crores of rupees are being put into infrastructure development all across the country and what the government expects that to deliver for Bharat.
हमारे तीसरे टर्म में भारत दुनिया की तीसरी बड़ी आर्थिक ताकत बनेगा। और ये मोदी की गारंटी है।
Propelling India to new economic heights among the top 3 world economies, this Viksit Bharat vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is riding hugely on the infrastructure growth engine. Massive investments have been earmarked for highways, seaports, airports, railways, urban connectivity and smart cities. Under the ambitious Gati Shakti plans of the Modi government, a little above 11 lakh crore rupees was allocated to the infra sector in the interim budget this year, 11% over last year's 10 lakh crore budget capex. The allocation was 3.4% of the GDP. According to an SBI report, this amount can be further enhanced by 70,000 crore rupees to 11.8 lakh crore in next week's budget. The enormous outlays the Modi government hopes will not only sustain but accelerate the momentum the Indian economy is currently enjoying, stimulate private capital expenditure and increase consumption. However, some critics are picking holes in the infrastructure-led development narrative. Ratan Roy, former member of the PMEAC, says the centre's capex increase have largely substituted for decline in investment by public sector enterprises.
It is not that the central government is investing more. It is investing more on budget, but only to compensate for the fact that just like private investment, the public sector, the public corporate sector is investing less. There's a small incremental effect coming from state government investments, but state government budgets are maxed out. So I don't see any further scope for that.
Doubts are also being raised about the quality of work after several bridges collapsed in Bihar last fortnight. Highways and roads have caved in after a short spell of rains. Huge traffic jams are the bane of urban commuters, and waterlogging is a common sight in metro cities. There is also concern over the tolls being charged for using the newly built highway infrastructure. While the highways and expressways have made travelling easier, costs have shot up as well. Toll rates of more than 3 rupees a kilometre are being charged on several routes across India. The Modi government's big bet on infra is expected to fast-track creation of jobs as well as lay out a logistical and digital framework to help every segment of the society, from farmers to entrepreneurs and the youth. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
While the government has boosted budgetary allocations for infrastructure, the question is, will it continue on this path and spend more, or does the economy demand that the government spurs consumption? Here's what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had to say earlier in the interim budget this February.
Building on the massive tripling of the capital expenditure outlay in the past 4 years, resulting in huge multiplier impact on economic growth and employment creation, the outlay for the next year is being increased by 11.1% to 11,111 crore rupees. This would be 3.4% of our GDP. Railways. 3 major railway corridor programs will be implemented. These are energy, mineral and cement corridor. Number 2, port connectivity corridors, and number 3, high traffic density corridors. The projects have been identified under the PM Gati Shakti for enabling multimodal connectivity. They will improve logistics efficiency and reduce cost.
So will these massive investments in India's infrastructure sector have the multiplier effect that the government is hoping for? How can the gaps in this Amritkaal Viksit Bharat by 2047 vision be plugged? To answer that, I'm joined by, welcome to the show, Vinayak. I want to begin by asking you, in your view, what should be the priorities as far as infrastructure is concerned in the first budget of the third term of the Modi government? We've seen in the recent past a lot of investments. Is that strategy fine, or should there be any more tweaks in that, Vinayak?
No, the broad strategy is fine. You know, for the last many years, this government has followed public expenditure, public outlay, infrastructure spend, all these words are similar, led economic strategy, which is that infrastructure outlays have been used to pump prime the economy. And you would have noticed that year on year for the last 4-5 years, budgetary outlays every year in the budget have increased by either 25 or 30%. So I think the important macroeconomic point is that there needs to be a very clear continuation of this policy where infra investments continue to pump prime the economy. And therefore, I am expecting that on the basis of the last full year budget, I'm not talking about the interim budget, which I think was just a holding operation. As the last full year budget had allocated 10 lakh crores total outlay for the infrastructure sector in the union budget. And based on those trends and based on the macroeconomic requirements, I am actually hoping that the finance minister allocates 13 lakh crores this year. This is important because the macroeconomic maths is such that if the government spends about 13 lakh crores, then 3 other constituents spend an equal amount, which means all the states put together, private sector, and what is called EBR, extra budgetary resources. They will end up matching the union government spend. So you will have 13 plus 13, 26 lakh crores as the total infra budget of the country. And that is important to keep the GDP pump prime at 7.5 or 8%. Now, if the FM decides to lower the outlay from 13 lakh crores to something like, say, 11.5 or 12 or something like that, then I'm afraid we will be taking a hit on GDP growth because private sector capex has still not come to the levels that we were hoping it would. It has not risen as much as we had hoped and we had expected. So the economy still needs to be pump primed by infrastructure investments. So the bottom line is, I'm expecting 13 lakh crores in the allocation in the union budget, and I'm expecting a continuation of the policy of infrastructure investments being the pump primer for GDP. Back to you, Siddharth.
Vinayak, that was a very important point that you make. There are some people who say that the government capex investment is coming at the cost of public sector enterprises capex investment that's not rising sharply. And also the fact that private sector investment is also not performing as to the expectations that we had. Is there a solution to that so that the government's burden comes down in the medium term?
Look, the union budget allocations are independent of the other 3 constituents. I mentioned to you earlier, the other 3 constituents of infra investments are Sigma states, all the states put together, extra budgetary resources, which includes public sector, both central and state, and it includes private sector. So from time to time, private sector falls, PSU goes up, states rise, states fall. But these 3 together in a basket, by and large, match the leading spends of the central government. So PSU are actually not doing pretty badly, and their investment should pick up. There are many frontline states which are spending well: Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat. So, and extra budgetary resources are also there, which are outside the union budget. So my belief is that the 13 lakh crores is doable in the union budget because there is revenue buoyancy, there is feel-good factor, there is enough headroom with dividends from the RBI, etc. So 13 is a minimum expectation, and hopefully the 13 will be matched by the other 3 constituents. And the totality of 26 lakh crores is important because that is going to pump prime the GDP with about 8% growth. Otherwise, we will be hard put to chase economic growth.
Vinayak, even as we expect such large and massive sums of money being invested in infrastructure, you would have seen from the user, from the common man's point of view, visuals of airport infrastructure collapsing, a shed collapsing, newly built roads showing certain deficiencies. Is this par for the course, or do you think in terms of contract implementation and supervision, something more needs to be done that such problems and defects do not occur?
No, these are aberrations, Siddharth. I think we should be proud of the quality of infrastructure. If you see the station redevelopment, the new airports, the quality of the Delhi-Mumbai road and many new expressways, I think we should be celebrating that. Yes, there are some collapses because of some, shall we say, miscalculations on the design or engineering. And there are some issues with regard to India has inherited a huge volume of colonial era installations like rail over bridges, etc., and they require maintenance, they require careful scrutiny. I would treat them as aberrations, and I would celebrate the quality of infrastructure that has been built, not just for middle class India, but including the wide network of PMGSY, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, Awas Yojana, the gas linkages, the pipeline, water 24/7, Nal Se Jal, Jal Jeevan Mission, 24/7 electricity. These are all issues to be celebrated, and one or two mishaps, I don't think, should be blown out of proportion.
Absolutely. That's a very good point that you make, Vinayak. I'm going to thank you here for your time with us today and for giving us those headline numbers in terms of what to expect from Modinomics 3.0 as far as the infrastructure sector is concerned. And joining me now, our infrastructure specialist, Sanjay Londhe, Director and CEO of projects at Ashoka Buildcon, and also one of the most well-known infrastructure sector specialists, Professor G. Raghuram, former Director of IIM Bangalore and advisor, the Infravision Foundation. Professor Raghuram, I start with you for your quick snapshot of what really should the budget be doing as far as the infrastructure sector is concerned over the past few years. We've seen lots of investments. Is that strategy fine for being pursued even now?
Yeah, I would agree that the broad strategy in terms of the public spending on infrastructure is good, should only increase. However, with that, I think there are two things that need to happen. One is, I think, to be able to bring in more funding from the private sector, which I think has not happened in the way it was expected. The bottlenecks connected with how the private sector views the opportunities in infrastructure sector should be taken care of. The contractual arrangements, the whatever makes it comfortable for the private sector. The second aspect is that I think in the interest of more projects, more visibility around projects, somewhere the operations, maintenance, safety aspects, I think, are losing out, or at least the required attention to it is not happening. We can see even with the new infrastructure that's happening, be it the bridge collapses, and I'm not talking about the old collapses of, the pre-independence era, or but
right.
of more recent constructions,
right,
in the airports or highways, and accidents that we see. Road safety, rail safety. So I think somewhere it's like there is a tear that is happening at the operational front end level. I would hope that the budget would think of certain structural mechanisms to address these concerns. I think we need much more oversight on safety, We need much more oversight on looking at the design, looking at the construction practices. So I think some
Okay.
or a significant part of the budget needs to focus on this.
Okay, let's take that very question to Sanjay. Sanjay, you are a builder. You've done dozens of projects, hundreds of projects, and very difficult ones as well. Does the private sector stand at fault here, or are these aberrations which we should not blow up? What's your view on that?
Yeah, thanks for this question. In fact, this question keeps on biting everybody's mind also. One thing, blowing out of proportion, that doesn't mean we should not find solutions to it. But there are some such kinds of, not wrongdoings, but limitations. But whatever the speed, we are growing, that sustainable infrastructure has to be ensured. So there is no question on that. So every aspect from that perspective has to be seen in advance. And I would precisely add here, as Mr. Raghuram and Professor Raghuram just said, and my earlier speaker has also said that, we should plan it so well. So we should get sufficient time to see that all these aspects are taken care of in a planning stage itself. So later on, during developer, because I come from a developer side, so I would like to see that we keep on doing the work as specified with a defined safety and defined quality assurance, not quality control, but quality assurance per se. So that would have a better impact. So it used to be said earlier, but when we are talking about such a space or the speed of the infrastructure, and maybe these are ikka-dukka situation, but in any case, our all infrastructure should be sustainable. So if you ask me
Sanjay,
in one line...
Sanjay, beyond the quality issues and the discussion around certain specific projects, and that's a small sort of percentage of the overall massive development, what would you suggest is required from a policy focus as far as infrastructure development is concerned? Is there a new policy architecture that you would advocate at this stage?
Not precisely. Now, since outlay is there, and we have to focus that they keep on spending, as we are talking about, they should keep on spending 1.3 million crores and plus from private sector. The focus should be on execution also. And if you want to be specific, I will go very specific, because there are some pain areas which can get rid of. It might help to the developers. So if you allow me to say one or two, I can just suggest.
Sure, go ahead.
We are suggested to CI also, and Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce also. I'm Chamber of Commerce also, the Indian Chamber of Commerce. See, one is that the fuel still not brought under gambit of GST. So if that brings, so it gives a better, let me say, a uniform taxation system can come into picture, and transparency can be better achieved. And since all are going to get input tax credit, so definitely cost of the product is bound to come down. Of course, it has got a flip side also. But if this method, path changing decisions taken, I think this is a long pending issue. If this can be taken care of, even this budget, this mission, Modi 3 economic, this economics will go much more than what is expected. Same things, another one or two small area I will touch upon, if you allow me to say. This royalty is another pain in it's a real pain area. Because what's happening nowadays, because of this royalty, our much more time of management time and the execution time goes to manage this logistics of royalty and growth. If this is deducted upfront from the project, and projects are told that, okay, you don't have to worry of the royalty, it gives an easier pathway for us to go out. Of course, it has got to added with the various clearances. But if that is done, we don't have to go behind this paying royalty. We are government statutory people, and they coming and stopping the work every now and then.
Right.
Because generally these terms are used to stop the work and blame the developer or the contractor.
Okay. Professor Raghuram, I want to come to you as we close our conversation. Is there need for specific ease of doing business measures? Because we've just heard from an industry representative saying visits happen and work gets stopped, including also earlier instances of where environmental issues come and end up stopping projects for no fault of the developer, leading to delays and cost escalation. Do you think beyond just throwing money at it, work needs to be done in these areas as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think this is government's own commitment that as far as possible, environmental clearances, land acquisition, these are activities that they should pre-do and then make it relatively a better plug and play for the private sector to come in and get the project going. In fact, to talk of, say, the Vinayak port, which just got its first ship. So,
Yes.
there are still aspects of the land, the road connectivity. They have all, things are still happening. It's not, that's because part of it is permissions, land acquisition, and so on. So, I think that requires attention. The other one, I'm just going to take up one aspect, and that is safety. Road safety, we all know that India is probably the worst performer globally. And this has been discussed so often. But a lot of it is sometimes we don't even know what we need to do. And let me just give you an example. Take the Mumbai-Ahmedabad 4-laning to 6-laning project. So there are many bridges which still continue to be 4-lane because there were 2 2-lane bridges. In some cases, they put another 2-lane bridge or a 3-lane bridge where one side, the traffic has to split into 2 bridges. Now, this is not streamlined flow. This is a wrong design. It only allows you to tick mark that you have gone into 6-lane. These are highly vulnerable for accidents. And I think we've lost Cyrus Mehta, for example, in one such situation. So I think we need, an independent safety entity that can look at all this and help us in delivering, much better safety. Now, we may call it safety assurance or safety control, but I think some muscle has to be shown in that, in that domain. And like that, there could be other domains. But safety is something, otherwise our infrastructure is growing very significantly. And, we may be actually tearing, the fabric may be tearing on this particular dimension.
Okay. Rapid growth of infrastructure all across the country, most visible in our national highways and expressways expansion that we have seen. Millions of Indians being benefited by that, faster roads, but also some of the attendant issues which are beyond the budget and require far more detailed attention. But there's also one point, viewers, that all of us need to keep in mind. Many of our municipalities where a bulk of our urban population is living are facing infrastructure difficulties, and that is to do with municipal financing. But we'll take that point and more on other shows. For now, I'm going to thank all my guests for their time with us today, and you, the viewer. With that, it's a wrap. We'll be back with more. Do stay tuned in. See you very soon.